Hey students, we're back with Lightroom here, and we're going to be looking at how to actually import our files into Lightroom now that we've created a catalog. And we're also going to look at creating our folders for our project one. So let's get started here. So on our hard drive, so I'm going to come over here to my hard drive. On a PC, you'll find your hard drive in similar fashion. Come in here to your into your hard drive. We've already created a VPCC folder, or you've created a Studio Lighting folder. We're going to open that Studio Lighting folder, and inside there is our catalog that we created earlier. We're going to create a new folder in here. I'm just going to right click and hit New Folder, and inside of here I'm going to put my last name and underscore and then project 1. And we're going to have multiple projects inside of this folder later throughout the semester. We'll just keep adding more projects. But this is going to be our, currently, this is going to be our project for this particular project one. So let's open that up. And inside of here, we're going to create a new folder. And in this folder is going to be part 1. And we'll go ahead and just call this fall off. If you'd like, you can name each of the folders with the that represent, but just part 1 would be fine. We're going to create a new folder, and this new folder is going to also be part 2, and then another folder, part 3, and for some reason it didn't stay on this one, so I'm going to go back here and we'll click this again, and then just change this to part 2 since it didn't keep that time. There we go. I can also right click and then hit new folder. So part 4 instead of going up there to the top. Part 5. New folder. Part 6. New folder. Part 7. New folder. Part 8. We're going to come back to part 8 in just a minute. We're going to need also a contact sheets folder and one last folder here inside of this folder anyway. Finals, final images. There we go, we got that. And then we're also going to go back to part 8 here, and inside of this folder we're going to create one called metal, a folder called fur, and a folder called cloth. So those are our folders. These are the folders that we're going to have for part 8. So here's all of the folders. If you want, you can change the view. I can list these, and it's going to put them in order. There are all of our folders that we're going to need for this project, part 1 through part 8. And inside of part 8, we've got these folders inside of here. Inside of these folders, there's nothing yet, so we don't have any information in any of these other folders. We will as we go through the rest of the project. So let's get started on Lightroom. So we're going to go to Lightroom here, and I'm going to go ahead and expand the view of Lightroom here. As you notice, there is nothing in our catalog so far. Over here where it says photos, we have 0 photos. We have 0 synced folders. We have no quick collections. We have no previous imports. It is just a blank folder, and over here under folders, there are no folders to actually include any images. So there are no images to show here in our main box. So we need to get images imported into our folder. To do that, we're going to go to Import down here at the bottom, and then we will notice that in Import, we could select a source, or over here under Source, it actually shows us the different sources and locations. We could actually go to our folder here where the project 1 is, and we would see that there's nothing in this project. We could even make sure that include subfolders is checked. There's not a single photo in here yet because we haven't imported them into our drive. We also don't have our SD card connected to the computer yet, so the SD card isn't showing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit cancel for the moment. And you'll notice this magical, really cool thing. As soon as I insert the card directly into the slot in the back of the computer, Lightroom will automatically see that card and go directly to the import dialog box. Pretty cool, right? So as soon as I inserted that EOS digital card from my Canon, it found the SD card right away. So up here in the destination, it changed it automatically to the EOS digital card, and it also added in the DCIM folder here, and it included the subfolders. Now, if this is unchecked for any reason and it opens up in the DCM folder and you're not seeing any images, make sure that you either come over here and click include subfolders, or you include the subfolders here. That'll actually bring it up. Or if you don't want to do it that way, you can also click on the 100 Canon here, and it actually found all the images in the that were on my drive. Okay, so this is how you get to the images, right through here. For any other reason, if you needed to go to any other drive that may be connected to the camera or to the computer that's not showing up, you can click here and then actually access that information through here. You could also go through the Microsoft hard drive, or any place that you might know where that folder or files are. Currently, though, we are just getting them from our SD card. Let's go to our next part over here, and let's go to the very top up here. This is set up in sections, by the way. We work left to right. So left is to import from the import a dialog itself to show us where all the images are going, what images we're going to choose. And then on the far side is where they're going. So we've got all the information over here as to where they're going. So we're going to go to our next part right here. We're just going to just work left to right. We can copy as a DNG or copy. Notice that move and add are not available at the moment. This is because we, over here in this dialog box, it's showing it's going to a different place on the hard drive. We're going to change this in just a minute and choose where we want it to go. If it was the SD card that we were actually just putting them back onto, then we might be able to use add or move if we were to change this to the SD card. But we're not going to do that because we don't need that information for right now. Notice that all the photos right here have check marks next to them. If I hit import down at the bottom right hand corner, that would import every single image. We are going to actually just import the images that we want from this. So we are going to uncheck all photos up here at the top. You've also got the option of unchecking all down here, or you could check mark all using this box right here, so that would also check mark them all. But I'm going to hit uncheck all, and that's going to uncheck all the images. And then we're going to make a selection of the images in just a moment. We could also, if we're on an image here, if we've selected an image, we can actually come to down here to the bottom. Here is our grid section, which we are in right now, and it shows us a grid of all of the images, a preview of all of the images and thumbnails. We could also change the thumbnail size by using the slider to the left over here and just choosing what size we want to see these. We can also choose to see one image individually by clicking the preview button here, and that preview button will bring up the image that was selected. If none are selected at all, you can actually just hit the preview button, and it'll bring up the very first in the group. So it brought up this first image. If I want to go to another image on the drive, I can just hit the arrow keys on my keyboard, and that will actually send me to the next image. So that'll just actually run you through any of the images. And I can go backwards and go to the very first image if I want. And from the first image, I can actually, it will stop, and it won't let me go backward or forward any further. So it's just going to take you back to the very first image going back. If I wanted this to be included in my import, I could check mark it. And then if I go back to the import the grid box here, I could actually see that this one has now been selected to be included. I'm going to uncheck this one because this one shouldn't be included, and I'm going to find the images that should be included in my folder here. There should be a total of basically 9 images that we're going to select, pull in in our first import. So we're going to choose our first 9 images. To do that, you're going to look at your sheet that you've photographed with, or the list that you made as you were photographing. I've got these images here. These are my selection. And once I've got the selection, I can move on to the next part of the imagery. Over here, under or our dialog box, we're going to actually choose our next part of our dialog box. So where are these going to go? Where are we going to put these images? There are 2 ways to do that, either here or down here under destination. Let me show you up here first. We're going to choose where these go by selecting this dialog box, or this, and then it's going to pull up this dialog box, and I'm going to choose Other Destination. Under Other Destination, this is going to pull up either the last place that I imported from, and over here on the far side, you can actually see my drive. So I'm going to select my hard drive here that I've got the images on. There's my VPC, and then there's my StudioLighting, Project 1, and then I need to put these into Part 1 Fall Off. That's where these are going to go, Part 1 Fall Off, in that folder that we just created a few minutes ago. Now we're going to hit Choose, and that is going to tell the computer where to send my files. So it's going to send them to Part 1 Fall Off. You'll notice down here, if we come down here to the bottom, under Destination, a lot of times this will be checkmarked if it is, or if this is by original folders. We're going to change these in just a moment. This may be the way that it originally pops up for you when you first start using Lightroom. We're going to change this in just a moment to the way that we want it. Let's come back up here to the top and look at File Handling. Under File Handling, Build Better Previews, we're going to leave this at minimal just so it works faster. There's a Build Smart Previews. This is an option for you if you want. We'll talk about this at a later date, but this is a great option, but leave it unchecked for right now. Check Do Not Import Suspected Duplicates. Now what this is going to do is if any of these files that have already been imported into Lightroom, it is going to actually tell the program that they've already been included into this catalog as it looks at them. So we'd usually leave this checked, so you can just leave this checked. If you're making a backup or if you wanted to make a backup copy of the files to another drive, you could select Backup Copy here and then choose where you wanted to put those backup photos. We're not going to do that right now, so I'm going to uncheck that so I don't need to make a second copy of it. I could also add these to collection. We'll come back and talk about collections at another time. I want you to make sure that the rename files is checked. If it's not, it will not rename the files and we would just put them directly to the destination. But in this case, I do want you to rename your files. So we are going to check this. Typically, it'll usually be on custom name or file name when you first pull this up in Lightroom, the first time that you use Lightroom. But I want you to choose custom name original file number in here. And then we're going to set this, and I've already got this set correctly here, but I'm just going to show you. We're going to set this to Wessel underscore project 1 underscore part 1. So there's how I want you to name them. Wessel, your last name, underscore part 1, or project 1 underscore part 1. That's so that's P1 part 1. And that's the way we're going to rename them. You can come down here and you'll see a sample of this. It's going to show you how it's going to look once it's added in to into our catalog and renames the files onto our drive. Down here under Apply During Import, we're going to skip Development Settings and Metadata for right now. We'll look at these settings in the next project. For Project 2, we'll actually use this. For this project, though, I want you to put your full name. And as you can see, it's popping up right now because I've already added keywords to this earlier when I was in here working on creating this video and then had to redo it because I lost the video. So it's already created a Michael Wessel, but I want you to type in your name, and then once you get your name typed in, you can put Project 1, and make sure that you put commas between each of these. That's going to be very important. So Michael Wessel, your name, and then put your project number or the project and number, and then the part 1. You can also add things like VPCC if you'd like, and Studio Lighting 1. I would like you to add that in here, and that's good enough for right now. Please check the sheet. It does ask that there are a minimum of 3 on the sheet, and I believe that's Project 1, Part 1, and Studio Lighting 1 on your project and on the sheet. But if you would, you can include these other ones too as you go. Down below here is destination. We want to make sure that this is unchecked here because you'll notice down here that it will create a secondary folder inside of our Part 1 folder, and we do not need that. So we're going to uncheck that. You'll notice that it doesn't go away because this organized by original folders is still checked. So we're going to just click on into one folder, and that's not going to create a subfolder. It's just going to put it directly into Part 1 fall off. So these can come in handy later, but for right now, I don't want them to go but into Part 1 fall off. We've already got enough folders. We don't need any more subfolders, okay? So we've got our Part 1, we've got our folder and our destination the same. It's matching up here at the top, and we're ready to move this on to our catalog and move these copy these folders into our hard drive. So let's do that. So we're going to hit import. Notice up here, it's going to go back to our library up here at the top, and it's dropped the import dialog box, and it's copying the photos onto our hard drive. And now it's gone, it's done, it's brought them all in here. So here are our images that we brought from our catalog. So here are all the images, okay? And so that now that we've got all of our images back here, we are ready to move forward to our next part, and that's to actually import part 2. We are going to, though, look right over here quickly before we move on to the import dialog box again. And we're not going to import all of the parts of the project. I'm not going to sit here and do that. You can do that for yourself, but I'm going to do it one more time for part 2, just to kind of reiterate the whole entire thing. Up here under all photographs, you'll see that there are a total of 9 photographs that have been imported. So in Project 1, Part 1, under Fall Off, we have 9 photos. This is also on our hard drive. As we add more folders onto our hard drive here, this will start to populate with showing more and more folders. It will also start showing our drive more, so we'll start seeing Studio Lighting and Project 1, Project 2, Project 3 as we add more folders. For Project 1, all we're going to see is Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, etc. all the way down. It won't show us that we just have a single project going on here, which kind of stinks. It can be changed, I think, in the preferences, but don't worry about that for right now. So we've got our Part 1 fall off here, and next what we're going to do is come down here to import again, and we're going to include those subfolders on our drive here, and it's found those. We're going to skip all these other images that we don't need, and we're going to go to the first files that are for Part 2. So for Part 2, we can see that it starts here. We're going to uncheck all, click on here, grab the 5 files that we need here. And it looks like I did this last one wrong here. That's not fortunate, but I've got all 5 photographs that I'll need for Part 2. I'm going to check those, make sure that it checks all 5 of the photographs there. All of them are checked. I am going to go up here and choose my destination, or to make it even faster, I'm going to come down here and I can just click on Part 2, and that'll change it up here and put them in Part 2. I also need to make sure that I change my custom text name to Part 2 right here. So it is going to rename the files Wessel Project 1 Part 2. You can also check these file names and numbers so if you have more in the folder that shouldn't be included in the import, just come down here and check and make sure that each of the file numbers matches your data sheet or your sheet as you were taking your photos. Down here under keywords again, I'm going to just start typing my name. Look, that just popped up. I'll just hit the enter key, put a comma. P1 part. It's project 1, so we'll hit project 1 and then part, and we'll need to actually type that all the way through part 2, and then we're going to add in VPCC, and we've got, let's see here, we're going to add StudioLighting, making sure that every time we add a keyword that we put a comma between it, because if we don't put commas, it'll run all the keywords together, and we don't want that to happen because keywords are our search parameters and how we find stuff. So we've got our all of our keywords in here. Once we have that, we're just going to hit import, and it's going to bring those files in. So they're copying into here, into our Lightroom catalog. There they all are. Ta-da! We've got all 5 of those images now within our catalog here. And down here under part 2, we have 5 images and a total of 14 images in our catalog. So that's how you get files into Lightroom. You're going to do this for the rest of the files. Bring them into each part, into each section. Make sure you keyword each one of the groups. Get them in here so that this will, in the long run, have part 1 through part 8. And inside of part 8, you're going to have make sure that when you import your metal, your cloth, and your fur images, that you put them in the correct folders inside of project 8. So make sure that you drill down to part 8, not project 8, but part 8. You drill down to part 8 and add those files into each of those sections, okay? So that that the metal photos are in the metal folder and so forth. We're going to go into the develop module and create our images and fix them in Lightroom, okay?